curse, like any religion, is nothing more than a belief that your mind possesses. But a strong belief will begin to possess the mind, and the belief becomes the curse they feared. Then they can become dangerous.
Chapter 2, Part 1 of 3. Deadly Secrets.
It is a dark and quiet, moonless Baltimore night sky. The night rain has succumbed to a low-tone drizzle with rain dripping from the leaves, and the late-night city traffic peered down to a car here and there, riding by the sound of wet road between the tread that has a quiet loudness in the night and headlights that glimmer reflect a little light. Except neighborhood side streets where the darkness seemed darker than the night before and swallow all the reflective light. It is Sunday, May 2, 1964, 9:05 p.m., the home of 15-year-old Lena Wilson. She is at home, alone, in the family apartment on McMecken Street and Utah Place. Her mother, 37-year-old Rhonda, and her 20-year-old brother, Johnny Fish Wilson, both work overnight sorting mail at the Central Post Office. Lena has been home alone all evening, which is the case every Sunday. The only difference tonight in her dark and graveyard quiet home is tonight she has a creepy quiet companion moving like Lamont Cranston's The Shadow, stealthy throughout the apartment. In 1964, I personally never met another Negro kid with a bedroom TV or phone. Lena was not an exception to any rule, but she did not share a bedroom, since it was always her and an older brother, no sisters. It is 1964, years ahead of Daisy Duke cutoffs, or teenage lingerie. No, teenage girls in 1964 had on a cotton flowery print nightgown, just above or below the knee with granny linen bloomers, and a stiff, white wired bra with hard-to-undo clip hooks in the back underneath the gown. But tonight, Lena opted for wearing her jeans and one of Johnny's oversized t-shirts. So tonight, she is sprawled across her bed in her dimly lit 15-watt small lamp-lighted bedroom, reading the latest installment of Jet magazine cover story about the key big cities that held the key to the election and the Negro role in the outcome. Baltimore is one of the listed cities, but it frustrates her that she is too young to vote. And in the cloaking darkness of the Wilson apartment stands in the shadows a hulking, nearly 7 foot tall, with deep, shallow, and strained, almost asthmatic-sounding breathing. Almost asthmatic, but truth be told, it is his blackout fencing mask underneath a large hood and black scarf face wrap. Makes getting air difficult. Slightly above the heavy, shallow breathing is a gruff-voiced human monster who speaks in a voice that can only be heard on his side of the door.
I'm gonna take my time fucking up that bubblegum popping nigger skank and shove her nigger music playing 6-transistor radio up her ass after I'm done fucking it. Dirty nigger bitch.
Then, as quickly, the bedroom door opened in a burst, and it caused Lena to turn and suddenly gasp, which caused her to suck in her juicy fruit gum to be sucked in a vacuum down her throat. Her eyes bulged in sheer uncut terror. The heart of the 15-year-old innocent teenage girl nearly beats outside of her chest, and in the quietude of the McMecken Street and Utah Place, adjacent to the Bolton Hill neighborhoods, young, petrified metaphorically, Lena screams like she is trying to wake the dead. In a single, unchoreographed movement, the killers dive-missed Lena, who without thought simultaneously was on her feet to dive headfirst through the closed glass-pane first-floor bedroom window onto the front concrete sidewalk of the apartment building, like it was a swimming pool. Her dive was Olympian, but now the murderous, hulking stranger dives toward her, knife in hand, and lands horizontally across her small, twin-sized bed, causing the frame to snap and land on the floor, and to knock over her nightstand, which caused her lamp to hit the floor, and to burst the 15-watt light bulb, which plunges the bedroom into total darkness, illuminated only by radiant light from an outside-the-window street lamp. Lena is sprawled prone on her back, badly cut but still screaming for her life when bursting through the same window, the hulking menace jumps through only to land in front of her, towering like a skyscraper and holding a long and shiny scimitar knife. Before he acted on stabbing her outside her bedroom broken window, he is confronted with a voice command from above, and it is not God, but the second-floor neighbor, Simon Leo Brown, who is standing in the window. The apartment buildings by design on her block had windowsills only 24 inches from the floor. The windows are what is called floor-to-ceiling windows. I personally could not live there unless, like Lena, it was on the first floor, which means very little with a giant man-monster towering above her and poised to shred her like pulled pork with his Arabian knife. But towering above the phantom child killer is a man outside of his second-story window ledge, pointing an old Winchester lever-action rifle directly at the would-be child killer, with a third-party command, shouting authoritatively, "Drop that motherfucking knife, motherfucker," or Simon says, "He's gonna kill your ass where you stand." Simon says, "Drop it now, you big son of a bitch." Simon Leo Brown has a commanding voice, but the phantom child killer has a voice from the bowels of hell. Like the Western cowboys used to say about a quick draw, he's like greased lightning. That could be said about the phantom child killer, as in one seemingly motionless move, he turns and throws his very pointed and very sharp scimitar knife toward Simon Leo Brown, and striking him dead center in his chest, carving his aorta in two. Simon Leo Brown never knew what hit him, as he fell 2 stories and hit the ground. Hard, with a loud splat. In total panic, the seriously injured Lena from jagged glass cuts all over her body and face stands and tries to run. No such luck for the 15-year-old Polly purebred, damsel in distress from her snidely whiplash villain. But just when all hope is gone, her Dudley Do-Right runs up gun in hand in a navy blue uniform and a shiny badge pinned to his chest. In 1964, certain mixed neighborhoods like Bolton Hill and neighboring ones like McMecken Street and Utah Place had beat cops who walked a beat twirling their lead-filled nightstick. The neighborhood patrolman was a few blocks away when he heard Lena screaming. And like duty calls, he came running. But in 1964, unlike today, the beat cop who walked the neighborhoods had no radio attached to a utility belt and shirt. They had a call box to report in. Unfortunately, the officer never took time to ask for help because he was running toward the screens. But he did have his .38 police special in hand, and he did not waste a bullet with a TV cop shoot-in-the-air warning shot. No, he blasted the huge, hulking phantom child killer center mass from less than 6 feet away. Twice, only to watch him fall, then get back up and rush him like a deranged bull. With a roar, the startled and panicked cop screams, but he pulled his trigger 3 more times, all misses unless you count the bullet fired that hit Lena in her upper thigh, knocking the poor girl back on the ground, a hit. The human monster snatches the beat cop, who is a Negro cop, by his throat with his left hand and lifted him into the air. And with a vice-like grab, he snatches all of the cop's family jewels from inside his pants and crushes them, while crushing the windpipe with the other. Then he tosses the nearly dead cop into the gutter and grabs poor, panicked, and suffering Lena by her hair and vanishes into the darkness. That is what this meeting of homicide detectives this afternoon is prioritized about. The police officers know they are sitting on several kegs of dynamite. And now a missing girl, a dead neighbor, and uniformed police officer who fired his gun 5 times and likely missed and was slaughtered like a lamb, and he lost his family jewels because he was colored and colors shouldn't be cops. A consensus among several white cops, including a couple of detectives at the meeting. In truth, the officer did not miss with his first 2 shots. They hit the phantom in his chest, right above his heart. Aside from the Harris family's awareness of their daughters, Angela and Linda's vicious deaths, and Joyce Bethel, knowing 2 of her children were murdered, and another child shot and fighting for his life at Provident Hospital, thanks to the police brass and politicians, they don't know about each other or Lena Wilson's kidnapping or a killer targeting Negro children. Neither does the press or Negro community leaders. The hope is Gerald Bethel lives and can provide clues to who the bad guy is, so they can catch the son of a bitch before he can make good on his threat. The Homicide Division captain sent out a blanket order to his detectives on all shifts. Catch the killer before the case becomes a red ball case. Means a high-profile, media and political attention case.
Chapter 2 Part 2 Lena End Comments. You are at the end of Chapter 2 Part 2. Lena, and this is the chapter wrap-up. The Phantom was actually shot in his upper chest by the police officer. So how did he survive? Did he have bullet protection, or is he truly an unstoppable monster, like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees? Is he protected by his Mayan worship? The answer to this question will be revealed over the next 2 chapters and parts, along with more mystery and other mysteries answered about who the Phantom really is and is her cursed. And why does he hate black people, especially children? And what is his physical condition, medical or curse? Get ready for Chapter 2 Part 2, Robbie and Aliou. I am Eric. Get ready for the really crazy.
Perry-Romberg syndrome is a very real condition. Please do not think that I am downplaying or making fun. My name is Guy. I am an AI representative speaking for the author, J. Romano Thomas, so it's my voice but his words. My story was inspired by a real-life situation. It is 100% fiction. Yes, my fictional villain has Perry-Romberg syndrome. It is grossly exaggerated in how he is depicted. His act make him monstrous. His face is used as an unjustifiable reason to kill. If I offended anyone who has or knows someone with this syndrome, I truly apologize. You are not being made into anything less than the human being you are by this story. J. Romano Thomas.
This is the end of Pedicide Chapter 2. Part 2. Deadly Secret. Next is Chapter 2. Part 3. The July 4th and 5th Massacre.
A curse, like any religion, is nothing more than a belief that your mind possesses. But a strong belief will begin to possess the mind, and the belief becomes the curse they feared. Then they can become dangerous. One 22 p.m. There are 6 detectives in the small, dingy white wall-painted room with dull gray wood paneling and door frame around a lower half-wood door and upper half-frosted glass window with gold lettering that says Homicide Division. The detectives are spitballing ideas about the killer, who he is and where he is. A rotund 40-plus-year-old veteran homicide detective sits his over-plump, gigantically wide and poignant sweaty-smelling ass on the corner edge of his gray desk with pewter trim. He takes a double puff on his 10-cent Swisher Sweet giant cherry cigar that looks like a fat brown dick hanging in his mouth. He expresses his feelings about the case to the 5 other lower-ranking detectives in the room. He clears his throat, then he takes another puff from his very smelly cherry cigar and speaks moderately slow. We need to have patrol rousting big white fags around Baltimore Street and the streets around the block, which are a short few block area along Baltimore Street, designated as the red light area known as the block. This fucker gotta be a fag. No regular man gonna fuck a little boy. That fucker gotta be faggot. I bet my last paycheck on that I'm right. All of the detectives in the room laugh and slap hands in high-five style. Then, a younger, probably 30-something detective contradicts the homosexual idea with, "I don't think he's a fag, Sam. I think he wants us to think that to keep us off his trail, I think he's Klan. Plus the son of a bitch took all girls except the one boy. And he fucked them too. He fucked them a lot, according to the ME. Another detective in the room intervenes and says the obvious. Bobby, the Klan is KKK, not just K. And this guy is numbering his kills. I assume the Wilson girl will be number 4. Once we find her, Bobby quickly retorts, as if he's the true brain in the room. That's the point, like with him raping the boy. It's misdirection. He wants to lead us down false roads with fake clues. He knows the Klan's 3 Ks, not 1. But look, all the kids are colored. His warning pretty much said he's gonna kill more colored kids. And look at how he tortured those kids. Then he lynched them. That's a lot of hate, man. I'm no nigger lover, but shit on a shingle. I don't hate them. Yeah, 1K or not, that son of a bitch is Klan. Who knows? Maybe a Klan faggot, but he's definitely Klan. He cut or yanked off the colored cop's balls, Castration is no doubt clan. The other detectives in the room, including the veteran detective, Sam, ponder Bobby's words for a few seconds. Then they begin to nod in possible agreement with his theory. The unspoken question in the room is how they act on it when the Klan in segregated Baltimore, a nearly untouchable protected species, is nearly almost impossible to arrest and charge. No one has spoken it, but they all know it. This case is going to become a red ball, a damn big one, especially if it is Klan. Suddenly, there is a very loud crack of thunder and an instant downpour of cold May. The lights flicker for a second as the breakers automatically adjust a power surge. Then, a black dial phone on Sam's desk rings. Loudly, he answers, tough cop gruffly.
Homicide Division, Sergeant Krolikowski speaking.
The voice on the other end of the line is a woman, he can tell. But he is uncertain about the age. Maybe 50, he thinks. The same with her voice. He is uncertain about the voice, but he absolutely does not understand what she is saying. He snaps harshly.
It's Monday, May 3rd, 1964, 2:10 a.m. Jones Falls, near Pimlico I-83 construction.
Lena has been raped vaginally and anally multiple times by the masked killer and tortured with droplets of sulfuric acid slashed onto her body at strategic points, including her navel, and it is burning a deep hole into her stomach. Her flesh sizzles like fried bacon in hot grease. The Phantom used hat pins to stick into her eyes, to slowly and extremely and painfully and torturously blind the suffering 15-year-old child, whose tears flow in a rush mixed with blood and mucus. Her tongue and palate have been cut out to muffle her screams to a sound of gurgled blood. Then he uses a 20-pound sledgehammer to crush the bones in both arms, legs, and feet and hands until they were nothing but splintered and crushed bones and bloody, macerated flesh. Useless. His torture is slow and deliberate to extend the pitiful child's fear and pain. The Phantom is purely sadistic, and for him it is orgasmic. Then he removes his red-hot branding iron of his signature K and brands her upper right chest above her supple woman-sized breast. Lena squirms fruitlessly, and then he uses his knife to cut slowly and down to the bone of the still living and once very pretty Lena. Even if only life for Lena is still hers, barely. He carves a large number 4 onto her forehead. Then he opens the suffering child's bloody mouth and pours in a bottle of sulfuric acid down her throat. She convulses uncontrollably until she quickly dies. Then he hangs her lifeless, disfigured body by her neck from a tree, and beneath her he places his mysterious symbols, which the BCPD think is a sign of Satanism. Then he looks up at her, and in his voice from hell, he says,
Don't worry, nigga bitch. You're gonna have company in nigga hell real soon. I hates nigger children. It's your fault for this. Happening to you when a nigger Santarian witch cursed my mother. You stinkin' no good niggers.
Then he lowers his hood and removes his mask and screams at the drizzly night and walks away with a note to the cops that says, I'm not done with these niggers yet or anyone who gets in my way, including pigs. Detective Krolikowski was obviously frustrated with the caller. He wanted to end their spitball meeting and go over to Pollock Johnny's for a sausage and cruet for lunch. This call was annoying. The voice on the other end of the line is a woman, he can tell. But he is uncertain about the age. Maybe 50, he thinks. The same with her voice. He is uncertain about the voice, but he absolutely does not understand what she is saying. He snaps harshly.
Speak English, lady. I don't understand a word you're saying. You needed to talk English to get put through. We's too busy for games. Then the voice says with a tone of warning,
Ji is gewarsku. Beskerm die kinders wanneer die tren himoet 13 ors aan kiezen aan kinders met bruin elbereik om siloak te erwider. Maar hij zal nog bij je doodmaak. Hij is nien gek nie, maar een skepsel geboren uit pure bosheid. Hij wil I balbaskep ir kiezen om op aarde te reer. Die gekleurde kinders zal in ruil ir hom menselijke trekken ge, hij biedt maar wet nie. Santeria is siloek, maar men is si belote aan redding menselijke astameling aan apuch. Die tren, pas op. Hij zal binnenkort weer doodmaak.
Translation for listener, not cops.
You have been warned. Protect the children when it rains. He believes he must reach 13 sacrifices of children with brown skin to Kisin to remove his curse. But he will kill many more. He is not a madman, but a creature born of pure evil, born with a Santeria revenge curse put on his mother. He wants to create Zabalba for Kisin to rule on earth. He believes sacrificing 13 chosen special children of color will remove his curse. Kisin will in return give him human features, he prays but does not know. Santeria is his perceived curse, but Mayan is his promise of salvation. He believes he is a human descendant of Chark, ruler of rain. It is raining, beware. He will kill in the rain again soon.
An adage insert. A strong belief that the mind possesses is very likely to possess the mind. That is why religion can be dangerous and deadly. Beware who and what you follow. Remember, preachers of any religion are just as fucked up as everybody else. Walk alongside, never follow anyone. By J. Romano Thomas. It's Sunday, May 10, 1964. Mother's Day. University of Maryland Hospital. 2:49 p.m. A grief-stricken Helen Harris and her children, Tommy and Jerome, are sitting at George's bedside, holding his hand, talking to him and praying for him to get better and come home. George has been in a coma since learning of Angela's death. The killer of Angela has metaphorically killed a family too. It's unknown if George will survive his heart attack and stroke. The church congregation has been helping the family with food and small cash donations, but it's far from enough to pay rent and electric, buy coal, and pay against a rising hospital bill. To care for her children and husband, Helen is no longer a happy and proud housewife, but a housekeeper for a well-to-do white family in Edmondson Village. She barely has enough time when she gets home in the evening to care for her children. Helen had no viable choice but to go onto welfare and get the monthly boxes of government food. But the hardest for Helen's new role as an all-hat-wearing mom is Jerome. Angela's baby brother is too terrified to step foot in his bedroom. Forget about him sleeping in it. So, he sleeps with Mommy, who has her own fears about the night and protecting her children. Helen sleeps with George's snub-nose .38 revolver under her pillow next to George's .32 automatic pistol, and George's Colt .45 revolver, which Tommy has in his locked bedroom with him. In her nightly prayers, she prays for the killer to come back so she can kill him, even though her faith tells her revenge belongs to God. Helen worries about her sons since both of her children won't fit into her small bedroom, so she added a deadbolt lock to the inside of the boys' bedroom door and demanded that they use it. And she made damn sure Tommy could and would use the Colt 45 without hesitation. The one final life change the killer of Angela and Linda added to their lives is the extended family chipped in together and bought the remaining family a professionally trained Doberman Pinscher attack dog. A vicious one, but the odds of lightning striking their home twice was slim. But they all pray it does. Helen is no longer a housewife, but a wannabe revenge killer. It's Sunday, May 10, 1964. Mother's Day, Provident Hospital. 2:49 p.m. Joyce Bethel is spending her Mother's Day at the bedside of her hope to be a surviving son who is in a coma after being shot in the chest point blank and fracturing his skull from the fall onto the concrete pavement. For Joyce, this is a Mother's Day of sorrow. 2 days ago, she learned of the torture and murder of her 2 younger children. She lays her head on the bed next to her son, Gerald, and weeps uncontrollably. George and Helen Harris do not know Joyce Bethel, although, with the exception of Linda Harris, who was too young, and Gerald Bethel, who graduated from Douglas High School the year before, all of the other children went to or goes to Booker T. Washington Junior High. Joyce lays her head across Gerald's chest while weeping uncontrollably for the death of her children and her comatose son. When suddenly a dry, raspy voice says, "Mom," Joyce exclaims with shock and elation, "Jerry, you're awake. Oh, thank God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord." Then she shouts, "Nurse," and runs to the desk to shout her son is alive and he is awake. It immediately gave a ripple effect of goose pimples for everyone in earshot of her Mother's Day gift, maybe from God, maybe fate, maybe divine providence. No matter, Gerald Bethel is awake and going to live. The police detectives do not know about Gerald yet. Joyce wants her son to get better before police flies start buzzing around him for answers. She knows he can't give them. The department is attempting to keep the 4 child murders quiet now that Lena's body was discovered today, on Mother's Day. Failed the BCPD, especially wanted to keep this information away from the Negro community as a whole. The flaw in their shell game, to not look bad, is the Harris's church pastor told the Negro congregation to pray for and to help the Harris family, and the congregants through gossip told nearly every person they know. Also true is, it's the same with the segregated Negro schools, considering the 4 murdered children, counting Lena, all went to Booker T. Washington. The teachers and kids talk a lot. Then there is Joyce, who bartends at the Sphinx Club, the most popular nightclub on the avenue. What happened to her children is the talk up and down the avenue, including the Negro organized crime numbers and drug syndicate run by Little Melvin. Add in the ears and out of the mouths of the Negro horse and wagon neighborhood fruit and vegetable vendors we call Arabs. In a single day, they travel into nearly every Negro neighborhood in the segregated city. Add in the Iceman and the Fishman, and nearly every Negro in the city know about Linda, Angela, Jerome, and Sheila, and Gerald, and now Lena, and the word lynched and KKK. The 2 additionally branded Ks is how fiction becomes facts with mass gossip. But in uniformity, in the Negro community, from preacher to organized crime, and everyone in between, the consensus is please catch and kill the son of a bitch who slaughtered and lynched our children. Linda, Angela, Sheila, Jerome, and Lena are now children of an entire community bound by race and strife. If all of that was not challenging enough to keep secret from the Negro community, the story around Angela and Harold, Sheila, and Lena and Gerald are in the mouths of the Negro hospital personnel, from doctor to orderly. Since 1951, the University of Maryland was the only hospital in Baltimore that would treat a Negro and a white person. The largest percentage of Negroes went to Provident Hospital, the only all-Negro hospital in the city. That includes all patients and staff. Provident was the first all-Negro hospital that began in Chicago, Illinois. Be assured, the Negro hospital staff added more than 2 cents to getting the story out and into the printed pages of the Negro-owned and published every Tuesday and Friday Afro-American newspaper. The secret is out now. For the police, who thought they had a deadly secret to keep from the Negro community, all they did was kick the red ball. It's Wednesday, May 13, 1964. Douglas High School. Auditorium. Town Hall meeting. 5:49 p.m. The city police realize the word about the murders in the Negro community is out, and a fair amount of the information people have is misinformation, rumors, and conspiracy theories. The police brass decided that if it is no longer possible to keep the information a secret, then they needed to release the facts and control the reaction, if they could. Invited to the town hall meeting are the local newspapers, the Baltimore Sun, and the two widely read by the Negro community, the News American and the Afro-American newspapers. The Afro-American newspaper already did a quarter-column story in their last edition. Also invited were all of the civic community leaders and aspiring politicians, Mitchells and Murphys. The major Negro church leaders, school administrative staff from Douglas, BCC, Baltimore City College High School, and Polytech and Eastern had representatives there too. Last but not least, the parents of the murdered children and a random selection of parents from the various schools by the PTA Council of Baltimore City. These were parents who went to their children's PTA meetings and helped with school projects. Nearly 30 minutes into the meeting, one of the parent participants stands to make an announcement. He speaks authoritatively for a 1964, before being black, Negro. "I'm not qualified, sir, to tells you your job, sir. My name is Robert McQueen. I cleans rugs for Acme Industrial Rug and carpet cleanin' over on Madison Avenue. But we's got 3 children at home, me and my missus, and God tells us to protect our babies. I gots me a double-barrel shotgun and 2 .45s at home. And if somebody even looks at mine wrong, I'm a-gonna blow his ass away, even if he be a white man, sir." One of the police officials sitting on the panel patently says to Robert McQueen, "Mr. McQueen, you shouldn't make threats like that. I could easily demand you show proof those 45s are registered weapons. And if they ain't, take them from you and give you a big fine. And no one has said the killer is a white man." A person in the audience shouts, "Just like cops don't get the motherfucker killing our babies, but you want to threaten a brother for protecting his own. This is a bullshit meeting." The auditorium gets so quiet you could hear a bead of sweat hit the floor. Then someone from the audience says, "What y'all mean? He ain't white." And yet another shocked and angry audience member says,
"If he ain't white, what the hell is he, Chinese?"
The audience snickers at the absurdity of the killer being Chinese. The police official says,
"The homicide detectives, after their professional investigation, know within a strong certainty that the killer is a Negro who escaped from the Negro Insane Asylum in Crownsville. His name is Edward Beckham. He's a child murderer who killed his whole family, including his kids, back in '59. He walked away from a work detail 3 months ago. I always said those nutcakes who killed somebody don't belong out of their rubber room with 4-cornered white walls."
Another person in the audience asks,
How did this guy, Beckham, kill his kids? Did he butcher them like the Harris and Wilson girls and the 2 Bethel kids? Whomever killed those kids wasn't just crazy, but the way they died was about hate. And what about the K branded on them, and those kids were lynched? That wasn't a colored man that did that, that was Klan. I was raised in the country part of Florida, I know Klan when I sees it."
The audience breaks out in roarous applause. The police officials stand by their theory that the killer is Edward Bickham. It was harder to sell when it became known that Bickham shot his 2 children in their sleep. Not slaughtered them, like the Harris, Wilson, and Bethel children were. Then startling, everyone in the auditorium is an extremely loud blast of thunder and flickering of the lights. The police officials decided to end the town hall meeting with a promise to have more to keep the community apprised of the case status as updates are needed. Suddenly the lights go off entirely, and in the pitch darkness, the smell of fear is in the air, and throughout the audience of all adults and several armed policemen, you can almost hear the heartbeats going bum bump, bum bump. Out of the velveteen darkness of the auditorium, aside from several lit matches and cigarette lighters, a voice over the intercom says,
"Y'all stupid cops and niggers can't stop me. I'm gonna get me another nigger bastard tonight."
Then he laughs, a heinously evil laugh, and shuts off the microphone for the intercom. Detective Krolikowski shouts in the darkness, over the fearful screams and shouts of panicked, "Oh my God!" awed, repetitively by several women in the blackened room.
Somebody get those goddamn lights on, and where is the goddamn intercom controls?
Another voice in the dark shouts.
Somebody jammed a screwdriver into the breaker box and shorted out the lights. We can't get them back on.
At the sound of shout about the lights being shorted cause a woman to scream, an unknown man out of the dark auditorium shouts, "It's him. It's the fucking baby killer. Don't let him get away." He is pointing, but no one can see him. So, what the heck is he pointing at? Then, like a melt-away shadow, the phantom blends deeper into the darkness and disappears, leaving frustrated cops and panicked citizens behind to ponder on what he said. But who will it be he kills next? In an unknown and unseen distance, or in anyone's earshot, the phantom laughs in the rain. It is 7:50 p.m. and it's raining hard. The McQueen home. It is 9:37 p.m. The McQueen family lived on North Broadway and East Lanvale Street. A 5-minute drive in their 1960 cherry red Chevy Corvair convertible. Robert McQueen bought slightly used from Jerry's Chevrolet on York Road 3 months ago. Robert was proud of that car. The town hall meeting and the heavy rain caused Robert and his wife Lily to arrive home past dinner time, so the burgers and fries and shakes were an appeasement to 3 angry kids who were hungry. They were just settling in to eat when in the heavy wind and rain there is a sudden crack in the window, shaking thunder and lightning. They are seemingly simultaneously, although they are not. The rainstorm became a bucket rainstorm, as spring resists the soon coming summer. Regardless, the McQueen's power went off, along with the entire neighborhood, along Broadway, including streetlights and traffic lights. A rainstorm drenched Baltimore with its first bucket rain of the year. Ice-cold bucket rain, and nearly invisible in the early night darkness and sheets of rain is a man. Maybe he is a man, and maybe not so much, but he is shy of being a 7-foot giant by a single inch, and he has been standing motionless for more than 5 minutes focused on the closed front door of the McQueen home. The bucket rain is very loud, but things seem eerily silent along the blocks of Baltimore 3-story style row houses with white marble steps, usually 4, with the top step being the widest. This man-monster is on the top step, covered with sheets of rainwater flowing over him and him repeating the words.
"I am a direct descendant of the all-powerful god of rain, and he hides me. I make this offering to you, Lord Kayak, and to you, my all-powerful father of death, Lord Kyson. I sign in your name the body and tortured souls of the Dark Ones.
It is November 2nd, 1945. Senegal, West Africa. World War II officially ended a couple of months ago. The story origin begins on the sugar plantation home of Sam and Judith Rowe, true name, Rosenthal.
The war is over, and Dr. Sam Rowe is sitting on his large sugar plantation porch with 4 large white columns reminiscent of plantations of the Old South, without the slaves nor him, in a Colonel Sanders white linen suit with a wide-brim white straw hat, nor does he have a mustache or Southern speaking accent, but he is sipping on a mint julep and contemplating if he and his wife Judith should migrate to the United States and return to their true name, Rosenthal. Since Hitler and Himmler and their murderous Nazi party lost the war, maybe they can sell the sugar plantation and leave Senegal not long after their baby is born in a few months. He considers either a move to England or America. Jews aren't the most loved people on the planet, but after the unveiling of Himmler and the Holocaust that he designed, Sam isn't worried about America having Kristallnacht, which means Night of Broken Glass. It was the start of the extermination of Jews in Nazi Germany. Sam and Judith Rosenthal left Germany before Kristallnacht. First, they moved to Sierra Leone, but they soon left and bought a sugar plantation in Senegal and changed their name from Rosenthal to Rowe, and with forged papers, they pretended to be American. Neither Sam nor Judith have obvious Jewish features, so it was easy to fake it as a Midwestern American from Farmington, Illinois, who wanted to own a sugar plantation with very cheap labor and near the coast of the Atlantic. They play their American roles well, but now he thinks it's time to really become true American and sail into Newark Harbor and settle in America's capital, Washington, D.C. But he has a true problem he does not know how to resolve. He longs to be a father, but he is no longer in love with his wife, Judith. He has fallen deeply in love with his cook. Her name is Aliou. She is 25 and beautiful. She is Senegalese, with a light golden brown skin, a narrow face with high cheekbones, and a narrow chin, and all naturally straight teeth, and dark brown eyes, with long, dark, and straight hair. Aliou is the family cook, who, Dr. Sam, who really is a non-practicing pharmacist, not a medical or educational doctor, but he has fallen deeply and magically in love with her, and she is with him. Judith, for reasons he's uncertain about, has what he considers to be a slight contortion of her face. Or maybe he thinks it may be his imagination, since he no longer loves her as a wife, partner, and lover. It doesn't matter, he thinks. They rarely make love, especially since she got pregnant. He takes another sip of his mint julep and leans back in his easy chair to bask in the warm breeze that flows across his face, and closes his eyes, trying to avoid one thought that is unavoidable for a white Jewish man who is in love with a black African cook. He can't migrate with his cook, nor her as his wife. He has a conundrum without a solution. He could stay in Senegal, he thinks. After all, the sugar plantation has made him rich during the war, and he does have a very good life here. But there is something missing. He just doesn't know what. Piercing his cloud of thoughts, a soft and silky and hypnotic voice of his concubine. She asked,
"What would you have me serve you and the missus for dinner tonight, my good doctor?"
The relationship is a secret that only they know, so they are circumspect around people, especially his wife Judith. He responds without emotion or flirtation, although doing so is killing him. He answers, "I'm sure whatever you put on tonight's dinner table will be fine with Mrs. Rowe and me." Judith comes out onto the porch and speaks harshly to aliou. She says,
VHY aren't you in the goddamn kitchen where you belong? How many times do I have to tell you, stop hovering around my husband before Sumione gets aluded idea that he's screwing a channel bunny. Now get your ass back in the kitchen, nigger. And I don't want to see your black ass until dinner, and it better be good and on time. Now scat. Bitch.
Sam leans forward in his chair. He is attempting to hide his instant anger toward Judith. He could rip her lungs out. His love for aliou is far greater than it ever was for Judith. Their marriage was arranged by their parent, and to combine their family's wealth and to protect it from the emerging Nazi party. It was never about love. It really irritates him to listen to her talk in such racist terms as nigger, jungle bunny, nigra, and more, since as a German Jew, she escaped that very attitude toward them. Sam has noticed that the longer they are in Africa, the more racist she becomes. She is starting to really resemble a South African woman, and not one who lives in West Africa. She even refers to the people of color here in Senegal as Kafirs. Judith's profoundly inflammatory and contemptuous expressions of racist hate turned of his love for her and turned on the dislike meter that is moving toward hate. Her company on the porch with him is unwanted. So he gets up and takes his Jeep, only telling her he is going to buy a pack of Turkish cigarettes. She asks,
When will you be back?
He snidely answers, I'll be back when I'm back. The McQueen home, North Broadway and East Lanvale Street. It is 9:40 p.m. In pitch darkness, he pounds hard in a slow succession with a massive black leather-gloved hand on the wooden front door to a window pane, less vestibule, between the home inside and the world outside. A bright flash of lightning as their front doorbell rang, along with a heavy banging on the door. Bam, 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 makes Robert McQueen cop an instant attitude. He was already pissed off by what happened at the town hall that caused him to get home later than expected and late dinner for his 3 children. He gets up from the kitchen table and storms off toward his vestibule and front door, only to be met by a huge, hooded man in a dripping, storm-drenched, long black rain slicker, standing faceless and silent in the McQueen vestibules, who tosses a fiery, hot liquid directly into his face. The liquid is sulfuric acid, which hardware stores sell to clean our Baltimore, famous white marble row house steps in the spring and summer. The hot, liquid fire immediately blinds Robert. His eyes pop like water-filled balloons with a pinprick, and the deadly liquid melts away Robert McQueen's face like a wax figure in a fire, with an accompanying scream of indescribable pain and terror and infinite hopelessness. His tongue bubbles and blisters from acid that entered his mouth as he screams like a blaring siren. It attracts awake neighbors, most who were gathered in their living rooms watching CBS or NBC TV westerns on their 12-inch black and white television sets, wrapped with aluminum foil flags on rabbit ear antennas for a mostly snowy picture reception. The faceless giant in a jet black hooded, dripping wet rain slicker without effort shoves Robert still screaming to the floor. More than half of his face was gone. He only had bloody holes in his skull where moments ago were eyes. He had no lips, just exposed teeth and gums. Like a skeleton with some nasty-looking blood-soaked flesh and hanging pieces of skin left. His loud, baneful screams have turned into a fading whimper and pleas for death without the ability to speak. He no longer has a tongue, palate, or larynx. He's just a sizzling piece of meat laying on the floor, flipping around like a fresh-caught fish. The houses are row homes, so the sound of Robert ear-shattering screams brought several neighbors out into the rain, only to witness Robert on the floor of his doorway, clutching his face with acid melting away his flesh to the bone, including his acid-soaked hands. one of Robert's less trepid neighbors, witnessing Robert on the floor and Lily standing only a few feet away with her 3 children, screaming in sheer terror, like you only find from the idiot victims who fall and don't get up in a low-budget horror movie. The intrepid Samaritan with quarterback-level muscles decides to rush the hulking figure of a man, only to stop on a dime when the featureless giant turns to face him. He was holding a very large, very sharp, and very foreboding scimitar knife. More or less a goddamn sword. The intrepid would-be hero with quarterback-level muscles backpedaled out onto the sidewalk in the heavy rain with the other so-called brave friends and neighbors who watched the menacing figure snatch Lily hard by her hair, enough to tilt her head upward. Then, with great force, he quickly and rapaciously stabs Lily in her chest and stomach. The medical examiner would later report she was stabbed 62 times before she was posthumously beheaded. Then, in front of a half-dozen or more eyewitnesses, all young men freeze in fear and watch like in slow motion. In seconds, using his deadly scimitar knife, he decapitates Lily and then raises her head by her hair, and with an outreached left hand for the witnesses to see. Then he casually, without a care, tosses her head while dripping blood and stringy sinew from the neck, and a final expression of woeful pain and fear toward them, and says, with a voice from the bowels of hell,
"Y'all nigger heads are next. If y'all still there when I leave, y'all yella. No balls, niggers. I'll cut y'all's heads off too."
Then he looks down at the body of Robert McQueen and says angrily,
"See what y'all's dumb niggers get when you try and grow up by talking shit. Y'all's nigger family wasn't even on my list. Now's y'all's dade. Dade, dade, dade."
Then he adds an unexpected comment to his vilifying of a protective Robert, who failed.
"Where's your shotgun and 45s now, y'all dumb nigger?"
He steps onto the front porch in the bucket rain with heavy evening traffic on North Broadway and says to the fast-breaking wannabe heroes who turned chicken shit cause Lily lost her head. But the killer is holding a recently turned 7 years old, screaming and kicking child named Robbie McQueen under his arm like an empty sack of potatoes. He says to the running men,
"Run, y'all yellow-belly niggers, run. My knife wants some more head."
Before you could blink, the would-be heroes continue to scatter in all directions with the speed of Jesse Owens. Then the featureless maniac killer who tossed the older McQueen children aside like paper dolls and snatched the youngest, Robbie, kicking and screaming, walks away slowly into the storm. No one dared to follow. There was no such thing as 911 to call in 1964. You called the operator, which is, if you even had a phone. Osed Negro homes had no phone. Got a dime? Pimlico, Cold Spring Lane West, I-83 exit 9B. The Woods, Jones Falls. 10:36 p.m. The featureless killer who fearlessly exposed himself earlier in the evening did so out of anger. It was the town hall meeting about him and Robert McQueen's comments about his shotgun and 45s, like he was a real-life Billy Badass. The question is, was he one of the white people on the panel or a Negro in the audience? Was he hiding in the auditorium or the basement where he sabotaged the circuit breaker to plunge the auditorium into a pit of crowd panic darkness? Was he hiding from the crowd or blending in with it? It's been nearly an hour of fun, torture, and rape time with the 7-year-old boy. Part of the torture, merely immediate, was to use macrame cord to stitch Robbie's eyelids and lips together. Then he used a hatchet and chopped off all 10 toes and fingers, one at a time, and slowly to prolong the poor boy's pain and suffering. The boy is in grave pain, but far from death. The faceless killer has a more heinous plan for young Robert "Robbie" McQueen Jr. there will not be a Robert McQueen III. The featureless, dark-clad and hooded killer appeared earlier in the rainy night, willing to expose himself committing murder openly. He didn't give a damn who saw him murder Lily and kidnap Robbie. He was a maniac that lost his cool and in front of witnesses. Will those witnesses who ran like scared rabbits give information to the police that will put an end to his reign of terror before it gets worse? 1:56 a.m. After a couple more hours of child persecution and torture, Robbie McQueen lost consciousness from the sheer agony he had to endure. Young Robbie was bleeding literally, from head to toe, and a lot from his ass, from the repeated forcible rapes the boy painfully had to endure. He cried from pain, fear, and witnessing both his father and mother murdered right in front of him only feet apart. 2:27 a.m. The boy was without clothes and chained to a strong but thick pole, slowly rotating horizontally, a couple of feet above a moderate but growing heat under a tent because of the still heavy rain that in a short time became hot. So hot that Robbie ripped away his top lip when the pain was so intense the macron cord could no longer keep a stifled scream locked behind his sewn lips. 7-year-old Robbie screams and cries harder and louder than ever before. Underneath Robbie, glowing up at him and creating more intensity to his existing pain, are glowing, red-hot coals. His painful and terrified screams are maximized to the point they can get no louder. As the heat causes his eyes behind sewn-shut eyelids to pop and leak blood and mucus between his closed eyes, but Robbie lives on to suffer on a spit being roasted while alive, slowly. 7-year-old Robbie, who has never been outside of Baltimore or experienced food that his mother did not cook, other than Gino's, the Little Tavern, Nate's and Leon's, and occasional Chinese food from the nearest Chinese joint. Robbie never experienced roast pig on a spit before, nor has he seen one. But with or without the child's knowledge or experience, the woefully screaming child is the pig roasting on a spit. But the pig started off dead. 7-year-old, never going to make it to 8 years old. Robbie will die a very slow and dreadfully painful death. As a seasoned and glazed roast. It is 6:30 a.m. After slow roasting Robbie all night, the featureless maniac killer sat down under his dry and warm tent and ate breakfast. He ate scrambled eggs and meat from roasted Robbie's button legs. After gorging himself on his cannibalistic meal of non-empathetic mercy for a child, not much older than a baby, the maniac hangs what is left of Robbie from what he calls a hanging tree. Between his laughter, he constructs a note written on several rocks. His note is to the police officers. It speaks volumes.
This nigger wasn't one I wanted. His dumb nigger father pissed me off. I had to teach those niggers a lesson. I gotta kills me some more niggers, but anybody get in my way, they's dead too. Even police officers. White ones. I hate cops as much as I hate niggers.
Then he carves a large K into Robbie's chest and a number 5 into his forehead. As the maniac leaves to plan his next kill, he is aware he is no longer a police department secret. Everybody in the city will be hunting him while he hunts kids. Then he looks up at the hanging and slowly swinging by the neck Robbie, then reaches up and slices more meat from the dead child's ass, and as he walks away into the woods around Pimlico, chewing loudly, he says to himself,
Damn, nigger boy, y'all's taste real good. Y'all's just needs a little more salt.
You have been warned. Protect the children when it rains. He believes he must reach 13 sacrifices of children with brown skin to kiss him to remove his curse, but he will kill many more. He is not a madman, but a creature born of pure evil.